morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday to all across the Delaware Valley. It is the Anthony Gargano Show presented by the Bet Park Sportsbook app. Make sure you download and have some fun today, especially with playoff season upon us. And that's what I want to talk about to begin with. We're going to have a fun show. We'll get into a lot of NFL today, a lot of draft talk. Bo Wolf from our All Eagles PHLY show will join us, as well as Baldy. And we'll get into a lot of NFL draft stuff. But it is the eve of a big game. And I feel the patter of the butterflies. There's something about that big game. And it's why the playoffs are incredible, right? Like the NBA playoffs is just a different season. We talk about it the same way in baseball. It's the closest thing. It's football, right? Like, because the games now matter. And tomorrow night takes on a bigger singular meaning because you can't lose tomorrow night. The Sixers have to beat Miami tomorrow night to avoid Boston. That's what's at stake. Let's face it, Celtics are really, really good. We know they've had a great season, historic season, and then you start to think, what's the best time to face them? And to me, it's clearly the Eastern Conference Finals. If you could push them off until the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, it's just that much easier and that much better for you because you'll have wear and tear. The last thing you want is a fresh matchup. You got to get Joel going, right? You got to let them go out and play games. And you hope there's some wear and tear on Boston, and then you take your shot at them in the Eastern Conference Finals. So tomorrow night's game against Miami is just significant. And it got me to think about these runs and the runs of the past. And it's unbelievable that this will be the seventh shot that the post-process Sixers have. The seventh. It's incredible when you think about when it all started. And it started 2017, 2018. Let me go through the history with you for a second. And that, of course, was the early Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid team. Joe missed the first couple games with Orlando. That was the Euro team. And remember, that was when we loved Simmons and we saw them arcing, and this was the first time they were in the playoffs since that Iguodala team. Then they fared well. I mean, they lost to Boston in 5, but they were in every game. They had a couple games they could have they almost stole. It was a real fun year. And then, of course, the next year was the run, and that was Jimmy Butler. And that was the great run that they make, only to be done by Kawhi Leonard's quadruple doink. And I thought that was the year, right? We thought that was going to happen. The quadruple doink, doing, and it goes in. No, Jimmy! That was our year. And then, of course, what happens in the offseason that year, Jimmy skedaddles. There's all kinds of talk of revolt. Tobias gets the max contract. Back then, his agent, his father, saw an opportunity. When things went awry with Jimmy Butler, they held up the Sixers and got the max contract for Tobias Harris. So much so that this is the year that it finally comes off the books. Think about that for a second when it comes to perspective. They lose. That was a second-round loss. Remember, it was a wide-open season. Toronto goes on to win the title. Golden State suffers all those injuries. That was heartache. Then, of course, the pandemic hits, and we go to the bubble, and it was a wasted year. Injuries. They lose to Boston, get swept in the bubble, and you go, all right, whatever. Then you're at it again. And remember the bubble year, the championship started, it took place in the end of August. And then you start right up again with another iteration. And this iteration oh my, was with Doc Rivers. And so Doc comes in, and of course, it was that fateful Father's Day when Ben Simmons passes up the dunk. How in the world would they lose at home? After beating the Hawks on a Friday night or on a Thursday night, they come back home. Excuse me, Friday night. They come back, and the game was a 6 o'clock start on Father's Day. And I remember going, all right, well, here we go. They're going to win that game. Now let's see. But no. Trae Young goes wild. It's amazing. You look at Atlanta now. They're a playing team. They're horrible. Trae Young goes wild. Ben passes up the dunk. And then that whole thing goes sideways. Oh, my. Then that offseason, 3 days after Simmons passes up the dunk, he says he wants out of Philadelphia. And the saga lasted, and it lasted through training camp, through him getting kicked out of practice with the cell phone in his sweats, and it just goes on and on and on until relief came, that trade deadline, and the Sixers are able to move Ben Simmons for James Harden. And you go, all right, we celebrated beard. The beard comes in. And that was, look, a blessing in the sense you got rid of Simmons, who at that point was worthless. And you bring in Harden, who undeniably a great player, a Hall of Fame talent. But he came with his own set of warts. And those warts, well, they showed themselves in the playoffs that year, again in the second round against Miami. He had 2 good games and then some not so good games. Joel gets hurt with the elbow from Siakam. He comes back. They tie the series 2-2 and then lose the next 2. Both Harden and Joel quitting at the end of Game 6 in Miami. Miami, the same Heat team that they're going to play tomorrow night. And, of course, then there was last year, and we all remember how it ended. Game 6 against Boston was the game that they should have won. Melton missed a lot of open shots, but in reality, it was back to Harden. And Harden just, again, could not deliver when it came, when clutch time came, when money time came, when championship level play came. Harden failed the test yet again. And so there they were, giving up in Game 7. And now they're back with a new coach. And now Tyrese Maxey as Joel's co-star. And we're back to feeling the same way. I feel great about them. I look at it going in tomorrow night, and I'm nervous, but I feel great. I feel like this is possibly, when we least expect it, the time where they're going to make a run. And we'll see tomorrow night, but they got to win. And it's Miami. And it's Jimmy. And Jimmy, let's face it, is Philadelphia's boogeyman. We all have a pang of fear when it comes to Jimmy. And Spoelstra and Pat Riley upstairs and the Miami Heat. Look, again, it was just 2 years ago when they beat the Sixers. But, man, I think about Philadelphia's monsters that we've had to slay. And I listened to Jimmy Butler yesterday, and I listened to Eric Spoelstra yesterday, and both had that quiet, resolve, like that confidence. And it's a bit scary. But here we are on the eve of the playoffs, and that's all I can think about. Sixers Heat, 1 game to avoid the Celtics. Good morning, JP.
Buenos dias, cuz. Listen, what a way to open it. Reliving all those playoff losses.
Oh,
man.
my.
That's rough. But hey, I'm ready. I'm with you. I feel the same way. Like the vibe we talked about, the vibes of the team are completely different. Maxey's another year older, and you've seen what Maxey's done throughout this regular season.
His aura, Like, we know he's a great player. You need a co-star, right? But it's his aura. Like, he's got good positive aura.
That's it.
Ben, bad, right? Bad, sour, right?
That's a good
Harden,
point.
sour.
Yeah,
Not Tyrese.
how do you not just get in a good mood just seeing
Maximus.
Maxey with that smile and just that energy just radiates off of everybody.
Yeah.
But that's going to be big. But I think more importantly, is that the cast around Embiid, and let's throw Maxey in there too, I think is much better. It's probably the best it's been since that Jimmy year, because I feel like this team is deeper than it was before.
Well, and the other thing too is when we talk about this, Joel during the Jimmy run was not Embiid now.
Right. That's a good
Right.
point.
He was immature.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that whole night, the video games, he's staying up late, right? Then he has the bad stomach. But that's the growth of a superstar.
Right.
That's what that is. That's maturity. And then you see once a guy is in his latter 20s is when he really starts to just kind of get it and put it together. And he has.
Yeah.
And that's why when people go, wow, he gets hurt or he's a lumper. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. He's developed a lockdown money shot at the end of games. Let's go.
You need, in this league, you definitely need those calluses. Like, look at the best of all time. Like, they've had to go through those playoff struggles in order to
You
win
go
those
back to
championships.
Jordan.
Yeah.
And you go back to the whole thing with Detroit and how they had to get past the Pistons. Like that, and it's been like that through every dynasty.
How long did it take LeBron to get his first championship?
Of course.
Like, it is super tough, but like you talk about the calluses, the losses that he's gone through in the playoffs. Having Arthur's definitely helped his maturity as well. But another key point too, and that's a big part of why I feel good about tomorrow and the rest of this playoffs. Nicky Nurse, we got a coach too,
without a doubt. Like we went through the process, and look, Brett was the steward to kind of get them to a certain level.
Right.
Doc was the guy that was supposed to come in and close, but interestingly, knowing him, he's just not a closer.
Yeah.
And while I'm eternally grateful for helping Maxey develop and for helping Joel develop that lockdown, money shot, he was not a good game day coach, and that's where Nick Nurse comes into play.
Yeah.
And that's what gives me confidence. But I want to tackle something with all you guys, and Andrew, our producer, and VG, who later on we'll talk to in the clubhouse. But Philadelphia's boogeymen, who, like, off the top of my head, like, I think about teams. Tampa Bay.
Oh,
like Tampa Bay is a team of boogeymen. Like they're Philadelphia scarers. Like they torture us. Going back to Rondé Barber.
Oh my God.
To last year, right? And getting embarrassed
lost to
in the
Baker.
Playoffs.
Yes. It's not a good taste.
Right? And even Nick's first year.
Yeah.
Right? Even though that was house money and they're in the playoffs. But, I'll still remember, man, how they just went after Jalen. And it was blitz, Todd Bowles, blitz, pressure.
I would have thought that, huh?
Right? So I want you guys to think about teams
I like this.
and athletes that scare the bejesus out of us. Because Jimmy and Spoelstra, they're kind of that guy. Those are those guys. That's for sure.
On a non-serious note, cuz tomorrow for me on a personal note is a must-win, because we talked about after the post production. So a little heads up for everyone out there. So on Friday, one of the biggest Latin artists is coming to the Wells Fargo Center to perform, Bad Bunny. So if the Sixers win tomorrow, then the concert stays on a Friday. And you've been to concerts.
Right.
You don't want to go to a weekday concert. But if the Sixers lose tomorrow, the concert gets pushed back on a Thursday. So for all of us Latinos in Philadelphia, Sixers, can we get the win tomorrow, please? Obviously, the Sixers fan first, right? But for all of us here, can we just get the win tomorrow?
That's right. Listen, I don't blame you. That's popping off with Olipop. Find your favorite Olipop flavor at your nearest Wawa. All right, so let's talk about last night, the day it was last night in sports. Flyers, speaking of big games, tonight is an opportunity, and it's not terrible. While it's tough, it's not impossible. So the Flyers can get in with a win in regulation over the Capitals and a loss by Pittsburgh to the Islanders. So we need the Islanders, a team that we've had a long kind of feud with, all right, to take care of our arch nemesis. Speaking of, monsters and boogeymen, the Penguins. So that's the ultimate, right? The Penguins, one of our ultimate boogeymen.
Oh,
so
geez.
the Flyers, they can get in, win tonight over the Caps, and Islanders win over Pittsburgh, JP. You cover the Flyers.
Yeah, so we also...
And you got the sweater on today.
Yeah, so we also do need the Detroit Red Wings, who also did get a win yesterday. They need that. We need them to lose to Montreal, who had a back-to-back with Montreal, which is a rough way to end the season. But now, listen, obviously...
Yeah, the Montreal thing, you hope that when you play a team back-to-back, you hope that's where it comes into play.
Right. Especially a Montreal team that is still very young. Their season's kind of over, so they're trying to play spoiler for the Detroit Red Wings. But look, listen, forget about what the Red Wings and the Penguins are doing. You got to take care of your own business.
Yeah, you got to win
first
and
and foremost.
You know, whatever happens, and whether it's a 2010 miracle and you get in, you got to beat Washington. If you knowing that this is a big game to get in the playoffs, if you win tonight, it just gives you forward momentum for next season. Even if you're not in the playoffs, it shows you got mettle. It kind of pushes you to next season.
110%.
Especially for this team where playoffs are gravy.
Yeah. No, this tonight is big. And just like this tonight it's a playoff atmosphere. It's a playoff game. That's going to be great experience, especially for some of the young players. We were talking about it with Jonesy, your Bobby Brinks, your Tyson Forsters of this team. This is going to be extremely monumental for them. And of course, guys, if you have nothing to do, maybe watch it with Bill and I. We'll be on PHLY Flyers watch party tonight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll be
that's
hanging
cool.
out.
Very
We'll be
cool.
watching it here.
I love it. Also, last night, Phillies, PHLY, all right, saves the day.
Diablo, Pache. I love it.
Yeah. But the big story to me, Nola.
Yeah, man.
7 1/3 innings, allows only a run, 4 hits, only 1 walk, 9 strikeouts for Nola. And it was interesting because we had talked to Brad yesterday, and Brad was like, I wonder if the under strikeouts because of his stuff, that he was kind of pitching more to contact. And he looked fantastic. And that to me is always why I loved the signing. I just thought the signing was a good signing because this is what he is. Like, we forget how well he goes in the stretches, and he just eats up innings. Last night, 7 1/3, right? Like, he's going to give you quality starts. He's going to eat innings up for you. He's a perfect, to me, complementary piece in the rotation, a mainstay in the rotation that you need over a long season to get into the playoffs.
No, I mean, last night was big because, listen, the velocity was there. Even that curveball was on last night.
He had great movement.
Oh, my God.
But he had great movement.
You know where I'm at with this, cuz. Like, I love Aaron Nola. I love regular season Aaron Nola. What do you do for me in the clutch? What do you do for me in the
I know everybody says that, but like, it's April. So leave it alone. All right? Leave it alone. It's April. Listen, you got to get to the play. He's a guy that will help you get to the playoffs. Yeah. There's not a ton. Look at rotations out there. We have this mindset. Sometimes we're too insular. Like Aaron Nola, there are a ton of teams that would love to have Aaron Nola.
This is true.
All right.
I mean, listen, he shows more of that, Aaron. It shows more of the velocity, shows more of that placement with that, especially with that curveball.
Last year, he had a good season last year.
He did. But how did that game 6 end?
All right. I know I'm only going to walk into that slamming door, but you don't get there without him.
Listen, these athletes, they're like our kids. We love them, but we still got to be a little bit hard on them, cuz.
I don't know if I'm a fan of Whit Merrifield.
Whit Merrifield?
I got to see a hit from that guy.
That's Andrew. Yeah, he'll be all right.
He'll be so early.
I'm pumping the brakes on the Phillies, but come on, man, get a hit, do something, please.
Well, everything's been quiet. All the bats. I
know.
Yeah.
Bryce comes up big last night. Listen, again, that's what I said yesterday, Andrew. Leave it be.
I'm trying. Trust me, I know.
Leave it be. It's Memorial Day. VG's is gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah, he is.
He's freaking
You guys
out.
are not worried about Nick Castellanos swinging at what was he swinging at that one?
Dude.
Did you see
When
that?
he goes bad, he's like swatting at flies. Oh my God.
It's like me in the summer. Like,
Yeah, when he goes
Yeah,
bad,
exactly.
it's terrible. I mean, it really is. Like that, I'll give you. When he goes bad, it's terrible. All right, we got draft. You excited for draft?
oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, we got to like hone in.
I can't wait for the Meat Locker mock draft though.
I know. Meat Locker mock draft coming up today at 10 o'clock with Baldy. One programming note: we're going to have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Jeremiah Trotter Sr. Baby Axe and Big Axe. We're going to have them both on. Junior's flight got canceled last night. So he was going to be on this morning. So he's going to be on. We're going to reconnect right after the show. So we're going to get Junior on at some point the next day or two. So I'm looking forward.
Got
I
a
love
busy
that
schedule
kid,
these
man.
days.
St. Joe Prep and the Baby Axe.
I love it.
Yeah. So
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So we'll dive deep into the draft. Coming up, Bo Wolf from our All Eagles show. We love Bo. He and Zachariah Berman. We'll talk to those guys coming up.